Daniel never believed in ghost stories until he stopped at a gas station that doesn't exist anymore. The receipt he received was dated 1998. The workers inside were officially declared dead nearly 30 years ago. And the worst part, Daniel didn't just stop there once. The station is still waiting for him to come back and finish paying.
Hello everyone. If horror fascinates you, if darkness intrigues you, and if you enjoy stories that refuse to be forgotten, then welcome to The Storyteller, where every story is told for a reason.
Daniel hated desert highways at night, not because of the darkness, but because of the silence. Silence in cities meant peace. Silence in the desert meant something had been left behind, or something was waiting. That October night, Daniel was driving back to Reno after filming a destination wedding near the Nevada-Arizona border. The celebration had dragged late into the evening, and by the time he packed his cameras and drone gear, the sky had already swallowed the last trace of sunset. Storm clouds rolled across the desert, thick and heavy like a moving wall. Rain in the desert was rare, but when it came violently. Large drops slammed against Daniel's windshield, blurring the empty highway ahead. The road stretched like a black scar through endless sand and rocky hills. No streetlights, no towns, no traffic, just darkness and thunder rumbling across distant mountains. Soft jazz played from his car speakers while Daniel rubbed his tired eyes. He had been driving for almost 3 hours straight. Then he noticed the fuel gauge. It had dropped below half. Daniel frowned. That's weird. He clearly remembered filling the tank before leaving the resort town. He even remembered joking with the cashier about gas prices. He kept driving, assuming it was a sensor glitch. 5 minutes later, the needle slid below quarter. Daniel straightened in his seat. Okay, that's definitely not normal. He tapped the dashboard. The needle trembled, then dipped closer to empty. His stomach tightened. Daniel opened offline maps on his phone. The next gas station showed nearly 30 miles ahead. The low fuel warning light blinked on. Rain intensified, hammering against the windshield like thrown gravel. The headlights flickered once. The engine coughed. Come on, don't die out here, Daniel muttered. Lightning flashed across the desert horizon, and in that brief white flash, Daniel saw it. A gas station, standing alone beside the highway. Relief flooded through him. He slowed the car and pulled into the station's gravel entrance. The place looked ancient, frozen in time. 2 rust-covered fuel pumps stood beneath a metal canopy. The paint had peeled off in long strips. A cracked signboard hung crookedly overhead, barely readable through dust and rain. A single yellow bulb dangled from the ceiling, swaying gently in the wind. Strangely, the rain sounded softer inside the station boundary, almost muted. Daniel parked beside the pump and turned off the engine. The silence pressed around him instantly. Not peaceful, oppressive. He stepped out of the car. Cold desert wind wrapped around him, carrying the faint smell of gasoline, mixed with something burnt. Daniel glanced around. Behind the pump stood a small office shack with fogged windows. A flickering fluorescent light buzzed inside, casting uneven shadows across the walls. Then Daniel noticed him. A worker stood beside the pump. Daniel blinked, unsure how he hadn't noticed him before. The man wore an old gray service uniform stained with oil and dust. His cap shadowed most of his face. His posture was stiff, unnatural, like he hadn't moved in hours. Daniel forced a polite nod. "Fill it up, please." The worker didn't respond, didn't nod. He simply stepped forward and grabbed the nozzle. The sound of fuel pumping echoed strangely across the empty desert. Each drop sounded louder than it should have. Daniel shoved his hands into his jacket pockets, shivering slightly. His eyes drifted toward the office shack. Something shifted behind the fog glass. Daniel leaned closer, squinting. Nothing. He turned back, toward the worker, and froze. The man was staring directly at him, unblinking, expressionless. Daniel cleared his throat. "Do you take card?" No response. The man finished fueling and slowly extended his hand. A small printed receipt rested in his palm. Daniel handed him cash. As Daniel touched the receipt, he felt something unsettling. The paper was damp, ice cold. The worker took the money without counting it, then stepped backward into darkness behind the pump. Daniel blinked. The man was gone, not walked away. Gone. Daniel swallowed hard and hurried back into the car. The engine started instantly. He pulled onto the highway, glancing once into the rearview mirror. The yellow bulb swung slowly under the canopy, shrinking into darkness until it disappeared completely. 15 minutes later, the rain stopped suddenly. Daniel's phone regained signal. The radio turned on by itself, playing distorted country music filled with static. Daniel quickly switched it off. His eyes drifted toward the passenger seat. The receipt lay there. Something about it bothered him. Daniel picked it up. The paper looked aged, slightly yellowed. Then he noticed the date printed at the bottom. July 12, 1998. Daniel blinked slowly. That's impossible. He checked again. Same date. He exhaled nervously and placed the receipt down, forcing himself to ignore the unease. An hour later, Daniel stopped at a small desert diner on the outskirts of a town. Neon lights buzzed overhead while rainwater dripped from the roof edges. An elderly waitress poured him coffee while studying his exhausted expression. "Long drive?" she asked. Daniel nodded. "Stopped at a gas station back on Highway 47. Her hand froze mid-pour. "Which station?" Daniel described it. The crooked sign, the yellow bulb, the two pumps. The waitress slowly placed the coffee pot down. "That station burned down," she whispered. Daniel frowned. "What?" "Explosion in 98. Electrical fire. Workers trapped inside. Place was condemned and demolished. Nothing left but rubble now." Daniel stared at her. "I just filled my tank there." The waitress leaned closer, lowering her voice. "Truckers talk about it showing up during desert storms," she said quietly. "They say people who stop there don't always make it home." Daniel forced a nervous laugh and paid quickly before leaving. But unease followed him back to the highway. Storm clouds returned. Daniel's headlights flickered again. The radio turned on by itself. Static filled the car, followed by a whisper. "Fuel. Incomplete." Daniel slammed the radio off. He checked the fuel gauge. It was dropping. Fast. No, not again. Within minutes, the needle hit empty. The engine sputtered. Rain slammed down harder than before. Lightning split the sky. And through the storm, Daniel saw it again. The same gas station. Waiting beside the road, Daniel tried accelerating past it. The engine died completely. The car rolled forward, stopping beside the pump. The headlights shut off. Darkness swallowed everything except the swinging yellow bulb. Daniel sat frozen. Then, tap, tap, tap. Someone knocked on his window. Daniel turned slowly. The worker stood outside. Closer now. Burned skin cracked along his neck, blackened and peeling. The worker raised his hand, pointing toward the fuel tank. The car doors unlocked automatically. Daniel stepped out without meaning to. The worker began fueling again, but Daniel heard whispers behind him. He turned toward the office shack. Shadowy figures pressed against the fogged glass. The light flickered violently. For 1 second, the fog cleared. Burned bodies stood inside. Charred uniforms. Melted faces staring directly at him. Daniel stumbled backward. The worker grabbed his wrist. His grip was freezing, inhuman. "You didn't complete payment," the man whispered. "I paid you," Daniel shouted. The worker tilted his head slowly. "Fuel is never free for travelers who stop here." Daniel glanced at the hose. Thick black liquid flowed through it, swirling with ash. The burned figures inside the shack began pounding against the glass. Smoke stains spread across the walls. "You leave when the tank is full," the worker whispered, "and then you return." Lightning illuminated the station. Behind the building, dozens of abandoned vehicles rusted under sand and dust. "You belong to this road now," the worker said calmly. Terror exploded inside Daniel. He yanked his arm free and ran to the car. The engine started instantly. The fuel gauge showed full. Daniel slammed the accelerator and sped away, ignoring the screams rising behind him. The yellow bulb shrank in his mirror, then vanished. Morning sunlight broke through clouds as Daniel reached Reno city limits. Traffic flowed normally. Reality returned. Daniel parked outside his apartment, exhausted but relieved. His phone buzzed. Bank notification. He opened it lazily, then froze. Transaction alert. Fuel payment. $3,100. Merchant Highway Station. 47. Closed. Since 1998, Daniel's hands trembled violently. He rushed inside his apartment. Then he smelled it. Gasoline. Strong. Fresh. Black, wet footprints stretched across the floor, leading toward his bedroom. Daniel followed them slowly. Inside, his car keys rested on the bed. Beside them lay a fresh receipt, still damp, still cold. Daniel picked it up. The printed date made his blood freeze. Tomorrow. The lights inside his apartment flickered. His phone lost signal. Outside, thunder roared as rain returned. And somewhere, far across the desert highway, a lonely yellow bulb swayed beneath a rusted canopy, waiting for Daniel to run out of fuel again. Truck drivers still avoid that stretch of Highway 47 after midnight. State records confirm the station was destroyed nearly 30 years ago. Every worker died in the explosion, but travelers still report sightings during desert storms, especially those driving alone, especially those running low on fuel. They say the station doesn't appear randomly. It appears when the road chooses someone. So if you ever find yourself driving through a desert storm and your fuel gauge drops faster than it should, and if you see a lonely gas station glowing under a swinging yellow light, keep driving, even if your tank runs dry, because stopping there doesn't refuel your car. It marks you, and the desert highway always collects what it marks.
Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe our channel for more interesting stories.